With new, gentler scented Clorox disinfecting wipes, clean finally smells as good as it feels on everything from lamps to ceiling fans, even on your kid's toy shark. Oh, ouch. Clorox disinfecting wipes, now available in crisp lemon. Find it on Amazon. Clorox, clean feels good.
Okay, only 10 more presents to wrap. You're almost at the finish line. But first... there, the last one. Enjoy a Coca-Cola for a pause that refreshes.
Welcome to the Immigrantly Hive. I'm Saadia Khan, a critical thinker, entrepreneur, mom, and a committed coffee drinker. Before we get into today's episode, a quick reminder, don't forget to subscribe to our new app, Belong on Your Own Terms. Guys, it's something I have truly poured my heart into. It's an app that really helps you explore who you are, what you've carried, and what you want to claim moving forward. And I kid you not, I'm using it on my phone and I can't wait to use it every single day. I get these cute alerts and I'm like, oh my gosh, now I am on to next level. And it has really helped me look inwards, think deeper, which is something a lot of us sometimes don't do. Now, the link to app is in our show notes. You can find it on our social media platforms, on our website. And yeah, if you decide to try it out, which I hope you do, give me feedback. This is your app. This is our app. I want to improve it so that it becomes a safe and inclusive space for all of us to reclaim our full self without judgment, in our own way, on our own terms. So don't forget to subscribe to it. And now to today's episode. Today I am in the studio with a comedian. And what better way to have an in-person conversation than to lean into comedy? It's funny, no pun intended, how often we reduce comedy to punchlines, funny accents, self-deprecation, and that one cousin at the dinner table who thinks he is the next Hassan Minhaj. I've met those people. But comedy at its core is cultural criticism, dressed in laughter. Comedians speak truths many of us are too afraid to utter. They reflect to us who we are as a society, what we value, what we fear, and what we refuse to confront. And sometimes the way they say it is far more palatable than if I were to say it. Which is why I am leading today's conversation from a place of amusement and curiosity. My guest is Lana Salah, a Palestinian American comedian based in Los Angeles, who, by the way, is in New York, and hence we are in the studio today, and whose comedic voice is shaped in part by her childhood in the Bay Area and a move to the Middle East during her teenage years, an experience she has described as changing the trajectory of her life. Her comedy is sharp, self-aware, and rooted in that in-between space so many of us really understand. Navigating identity, culture, belonging, and the politics of being seen in America, especially at a moment when visibility can feel both urgent and, dare I say, costly. So today, as I said, I am leading with curiosity, amusement, and understanding that comedy can do what policy papers and think pieces really achieve. It can make truth land. So without further ado, let's dive right in. I have been stalking you to get information, do some research. And one thing that I noticed, do you have natural curls?
Yes.
Me too.
Okay.
So it's so interesting because I have this love-hate relationship with my curls. I am trying to accept them more and more. So when you see me on Instagram in my reels, you will see my curly side. And my personality changes instantly. But I personally feel more dressed up when I have my blow dry. As another curly haired gal, what do you think? How does your personality change with curls versus when you have a full blowout?
I don't even know if it's that my personality changes as much. I think it's people's perception that changes, and then you're kind of responding to that. And they've done studies on this, that women, when they have curly hair in the workplace, are perceived like more wild, just a different perception, whereas women with straight hair are perceived as like it's more professional. But I love my curly hair. It's beautiful. I know how to make it. That everybody asks me, like, how do you get your hair like that? But when I do shows or when I travel or when I'm number one, it's easier because if I do a blowout, it'll be like, oh, my hair will be blown out for a few days and I don't have to like do it curly. But curly, to keep it nice and everything, you really have to put a lot of work into it.
It doesn't last you more than a day.
Like maybe 2 if you do it really good, but like past that, now you got to do a wash and dry and you got to do the whole thing.
For me, I don't know how to do a good blowout. I would do a terrible job. So either I do it at a salon or I let my hair just air dry and leave it as curls. But the funny thing is, I've had people come to me and say, oh my gosh, we love your curls. You look so different. Your personality really shines through. And I'm like, what am I missing?
Like nobody's ever come up to me with my hair straight and been like, oh, that's nice. Curly hair, everybody comes up to me and says, wow, how do you, please tell me. And I'm like, it's weird because I do think people like it's just like they like to look at it, they like to touch it, which is kind of annoying. Can I touch it? I'm like, please don't. It took me like an hour to get these curls going. But I do think that maybe in terms of personality, like it's like, I just feel like relaxed. You know, it's like you're just like, oh, whatever, you know, like enjoy, you know what I mean? Whereas maybe sometimes when you have your hair straight, you're like, oh, I got to put a dress on, or I got to like it's like somehow now, because I spent money on this, now I got to put something better on.
I have to do something, right? Yeah. It's so funny. As I'm talking about my curly hair, I have like 2 or 3 blowout appointments already scheduled. So it's like, okay, it's holiday season. I have to do it. I have to do it often. But yeah, I noticed that about you, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to ask Lana. How does she deal with it?
I'll tell you after how I do the curls too, because it definitely helps when you know how to make them always pop. Because sometimes I know a lot of people with curly hair that it's beautiful, their hair, but they just don't know how to work with it, and so then they kind of start to hate it. And it's like, if you can make it look good, you can love it both ways and not have to feel like so tied to the blow dry. Sometimes it's like, it's not convenient, or you're just not, so it's like, oh, I can still make it look good, you know? But I think that's the goal, is just like, try to look the best it can, whichever way you wear it, you know? So I hope that, I wish I could just have somebody come to my house and blow dry my hair every week, but you know, we'll see one day.
So, Lana, you are a comedian, but you're also an engineer.
Yeah.
Now, I come from a family of engineers. My brother is an engineer. My dad, my husband in another life, now he is a management consultant, which I have a lot of thoughts about. How has your engineering, your analytical skills helped you in comedy? How does that inform how you create sets and materials?
I'm very I guess, definitely very analytical, but I think in terms of worldview, in terms of the way my brain processes events, thoughts, things I see, information, sometimes it just comes through in punchlines. I'll look at something, because I also have very good pattern recognition. Those things jump out pretty quickly for me. And so then I can take that and just as a thought, and I'll structure a bit around that, where it's like, I see something and I see the hypocrisy, or something pops out and I'm like, this is now related to this. And now I can pull these things together and make an analogy that people can like understand and relate to for complex concepts. So I think it helps in structuring, bits. I think it helps or it gives a different worldview. Like somebody that has an analytical background is going to have a different worldview than somebody that has like a fully creative background. So when I take people through the set, it's like you're going on a journey and it's building and building. And by the time like you kind of get a good idea of like, A, who I am as a person, and B, like the way I think. And it also helps in taking people through things that they might be a little more averse to, right? Because sometimes you bring up concepts for people that are like, I don't know if I agree with that. But then you're like, hold on, let me take you through the logic of this. And then they're like, oh, crap, she's right. And so I think it's just helpful in building any kind of argument, including any kind of bit that might be a little bit like difficult for people to swallow. Because there's a lot of things we say that's difficult for people to swallow.
I was going to ask you that in your comedy, are there parts of observational stuff or even life experiences that you withhold?
So I would say this is like my first week kind of doing comedy in New York. I've been doing most of my comedy in LA. That definitely exists there. I don't know if I have enough of a feel of the landscape. I've talked to other comics and I've heard that some areas are much more receptive to things than other areas. And LA is similar too. For example, I'm Palestinian. I've definitely been in situations and shows that I'm like, they don't like that here.
New York or LA?
I haven't experienced that really in New York. I do think New York would be more receptive to it, but LA is very widespread and large. And you go from the west to the east side, it's very like on the west side, you'll get a certain reaction to being Palestinian. On the east side, you'll get a certain reaction. So you learn who and when and how, and you'll learn that sometimes you'll say it and it'll be just a complete silence.
But does it matter?
Not to me. Ultimately, the rejection of my personhood doesn't, that's your problem. That's their discomfort, lesson, and journey. And I'm just the person to deliver that for them, right? And I think that's also why I do it, because not many people have met a Palestinian before. Not many people have seen one even performing, and they all have a lot of ideas. So I think people that are just going to see and immediately reject, I'm like, first of all, you're not only not my type of audience, but I can already tell you just want me eliminated. We're not going to get along. I'm not going to take the musings of supremacists personally in that sense. You know what I mean? These are not okay people. Most people, especially now, especially it's 2 years into the genocide, I think people know. And sometimes I'll say it and there'll just be applause just for saying it. And I'm like, okay, cool, we're good. We don't need to do that, And you start to just sometimes you just feel it by walking in the room. You're like, oh, these aren't going to be my people.
But there is more awareness, right?
Definitely more awareness. 6 months after it was different, 12 months. At this stage, I think we're past a tipping point, whereas a year, 18 months ago, it was dodgy and sketchy. And also putting aside even just Palestinian, sometimes I have a lot of blue material. I have a lot of controversial material, politically speaking. Sometimes I'll be in spaces where some people actually like Trump. And I'm like, okay, let's just skip over, they get really I've had people come up to me after shows and yell at me, and people get, especially with politics, and I do a lot of politics in my material. So yeah, there's definitely you kind of get a feel for the political landscape of where you are, and you're like, I don't feel the need to censor myself, but I also know that sometimes you can be in a space and you could say the thing, but you just know none of these people are going to absorb it, accept you, or care. So you're like, what's the point? So sometimes you assemble your routine around, how do you say, I used to take Aikido, you go with the wave of the energy. The idea of I'm not just up here to shock you or upset you. I'm here to build a story, to try to help you learn about me if you care, and then kind of walk away with something that you might be like, oh, that was interesting. I learned that.
So Lana, on the one hand, we talk about censorship. On the other end of the spectrum, let's talk about truths. And this is something that became popular, the conversation and debate around emotional truth versus factual truth. Emotional truth being this term, I think, which is coined by Hassan Minhaj. He said something about emotional truth, which is an exaggerated version of observational and lived experiences. And in his mind, that is the center and anchor on which comedians build their comedy sets and materials, while factual truth can be secondary. As a comedian who speaks their truth, how do you parse out emotional truths versus factual truths?
I mean, emotional truth in terms of like my upbringing, my childhood, the way I also was born and raised in America, I lived in the Middle East. Emotional truth as in how I took in what was going on around me, towards me, was 100% true for me. And there will be situations or things where people will maybe be like, they don't like how it's like a factual thing happened, let's say, and the way my emotional truth about it, it's like, well, you're making that look bad. I'm like, that's my truth. That's how my experience, and I get to be authentic to because if you want to do it, you can go up and you can do it. Factual, I think, for example, when we're talking about like events, when we're talking about people, like just as a stupid example or a silly one, we're all talking about the Epstein emails and there's a lot of speculation around who's Bubba and who, and we lean into
I'm so
these.
Curious. Who
we
is
lean
Bubba?
into these, like it's Bill Clinton, but like we lean into these things to make jokes. Like we will, we'll make the absurd. It's like it's definitely somebody, but like since we don't know like exactly factual, we'll take liberties. So I think that's times where you can like stretch factuals and do things. I try to definitely be like factual in terms of dates, people, like things like that. They're important to the story, but I do understand the idea of emotional truth. And I do think it has a place in comedy and everything. Becoming a comedian, it's like you're doing it from an emotional place too, right? It's like you're not just going to go up there and recite a TED Talk, right? There's something that you're like, this, I feel compelled to talk about this because it made me feel a certain way. And that's like an emotion.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Carvana lets you buy your next car on your terms. Explore a massive inventory online, filter for what matters, and find your perfect match. Then choose delivery to your home or pick it up at one of Carvana's iconic car vending machines. Every car also comes with a 7-day money-back guarantee, so you can make sure it's the right fit. Buy your car on Carvana. Delivery or pickup fees may apply. Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Carvana.
I want to rewind and go back to your childhood. You've talked about your personhood, which is, from what I understand and what I've read about you and seen through your comedy, a culmination of multiplicity of cultures, right? You were born in the US, you were a teenager in the Middle East, you came back to the US. Do you remember the first time you realized that humor could be your power?
Gosh, it's very young age with my sisters. When we moved to the Middle East, I don't know if I'm sure you've been to Pakistan too.
Oh, I grew up in Pakistan.
Oh, yeah. So you understand that when you go to those countries, in a way, they are obsessed with Western things.
Are they though?
I mean, in terms of like culture, music, it's like Michael Jackson. So the culture is definitely like entertainment culture that comes from,
but in an endearing way.
Yeah.
Not in the way the West projects it to be.
No. Like, when I remember moving there and I saw kids dressed up as Michael Jackson and dancing. You know what I mean? Like that was a big, like they want to emulate that. And so when they look for culture and entertainment, they would emulate the Western entertainers. And we also, at the time, we're talking about VHS days. So we didn't have access to those, we had satellite TV. So, you'd only get certain things you get to see. So having family in America, they would send us sometimes like VHS tapes. And they would record them from the television, the cable. And so we used to get VHS tapes that were like Def Jam Comedy Hour, I remember I had a few Bill Hicks specials and like George Carlin and stuff.
The shit is something I like to do from time to time, but I also like to know that I can come back to these little things we have in common, little universal moments that we share separately, the things that make us the same. They're so small we hardly ever talk about them. Do you ever look at your watch and then you don't know what time it is? And you have to look again. And you still don't know the time.
I watched those with my sisters because we only had the VHS tape. So we memorized, we watched everything, and we really got into comedy at that time. And I remember when we got hold of like Eddie Murphy Raw, we would memorize it, and then we would be in school like passing it out like contraband and telling the jokes quietly because it was all like blue material. So it was like in the teenage years, and then when we came back to America, like my sisters, were here. They passed on now, but we would go to comedy clubs, and we would go see comedy movies. So that was kind of our family thing. Is that we would go, and we always fought. All sisters, we always fought. We would go to the comedy club, and that would be like where everybody would get along. We'd sit and watch a comedy movie, or we'd watch comedians, and it was a big thing for us. And two of my sisters who passed on, that was like kind of one of the last things I did with both of them, separately even. My family is very funny. And I just think in general, like Palestinians are really funny. Probably the suffering, probably the struggle, but like just like offhanded funny, like not even trying to be funny. And all my life, people were like, oh, you should be a comedian, you should be a comedian. And I think when I was younger, somebody more successful in comedy discouraged me that as a woman, like, oh, you shouldn't do it. Like, you're not. I think also at the time, it was a different time in comedy, and there weren't as many women. I mean, the space has changed a lot in like 20 years. And I was like, oh, I got to work on, my financial security and things like that. And then I just, again, after my sisters passed away, I'm like, I just have nothing to lose. So I'm going to go do it. And I also kind of as a tribute to my sisters, I got to perform on the Comedy Store main room stage where me and my sister used to watch comedians. So it was always like that. That's the dream. And I fulfilled it to some extent.
Lana, I'm so sorry to hear about your sisters. And thank you for sharing this story. You know what policy papers and think pieces can't do? Comedy can. The truth lands better with comedy. But what about comedy stood out to you initially when you engaged with it versus now? How has your relationship with comedy evolved?
In terms of the things that I wanted to get into comedy to say, or what inspired the kind of comedians that inspired me, it hasn't really changed. Like I said, the landscape has changed. The Bill Hicks and George Carlins aren't there anymore. People's attention spans are different. People's ability to grasp difficult concepts or controversial things are different. I think I do talk about the genocide. And let me say, it's not easy to make jokes where you end on genocide. Understanding what the balance is to say those it's like you have to have this much laughs or this much things to be able to say that thing and still let people walk away. That's kind of changed because sometimes you're just like, I just want to say this. And you say it and you're like, I probably have to find a better way to say this. So that's what happens.
This is such an important conversation, and I do want to expand this a bit. What does it mean to protect the intimacy of Palestinian pain as a Palestinian while still turning your life and your lived experiences and experiences of people who are close to you into art?
I mean, sometimes you have to compartmentalize. Like, I'll bring my material to the stage and it'll be about that. But it'll be difficult if I was always bringing like my feelings or my emotions around, the genocide, because I have very strong feelings and I process them off the stage all the time. And obviously on like places like Threads where I'm just like, let me shout about this for the day. Like, I want to walk off the stage and have people left with this like tie a bow on it kind of thing. And knowing that the genocide is still ongoing, I think that's the process, because it's like, we're talking about this. Look, it's still happening. I'll talk about the experience. I want people to walk away at least a little bit more informed, a little bit better, maybe. And then I have to kind of take they're not even extreme views. It's just, you know what I mean? It's like, to them, they might be extreme as a person going through that.
See them as extreme.
Yeah.
Is so fucked up.
But that's why I'm like, the fact that I have to show up with that understanding that it's like, all right, sometimes if you just use the G word, they're really going to get mad. And I'm like, but it is. And I'm not going to lie. When people come up to me and say it's not, we're going to have a misunderstanding. Not a nice one. And so I would like to prevent that for my own good, because I'm not going to handle it well. So I'm not going to let a person put me in I'm not going to try to put myself in that position every day. So I try to make it like, let's put a bow on it. I try to keep it like, no, we're good. This is the end of it. And I'm going to go back to Threads after this. Like, I'm going to complain about this on Threads.
What sparks a new bit for you? Is it like curiosity, frustration?
A lot of times it's current events, Epstein. My idols were George Carlin and Bill Hicks. So that's how I view everything. And I really, the hypocrisies, the lies, what sparks a new bit is helping people see something correctly for truth, cutting through noise. So if I think that I can bring that perspective on something, then I'm gonna, make a bit about it. A lot of times just the ridiculousness. Like you see something, you're like, that's ridiculous. I have to talk about that.
Give me an example.
I mean, I was voting the other week in LA. And, we only had one question on the ballot, which is, okay, we all went to vote for the one question. But okay, in the voting center, I'm hearing birds chirping. And I'm like, what is going on in here? Why am I hearing chirping? And then I look and there's a woman standing waiting to vote, wearing a backpack on the front with birds inside it.
Oh, wow.
Like it was like one of those those animal holder backpacks. She must have had 2-3 birds in there, and they were chirping away. And I was like, I wanted to take I don't take a picture of people in public and stuff, but I was like, my brain just short circuited. I'm like, wow, voting is so important. You can even do it with your birds, and the birds were like, vote yes on Prop 50. You know what I mean? So it just stuff you see ridiculous things that you're like, this will make a bit because you have something so unusual, so noticeable, so a time, place thing that you can build around that and make a bit. So sometimes just I notice things that are really out of the ordinary. And if you talk about that in a funny way, it's just that.
So when you test a joke, are there any signals that tell you that you should grow this?
So sometimes it's hard because you go to open mics and any comedian will tell you that sometimes jokes that don't hit at open mics doesn't mean it's not going to work with the audience.
But you do riffing as well, right?
Sometimes we do riff. I do riffing. I'm more I come to the mics with my riffs, and then I kind of try to I'll talk through the mic, and then from that I might get something and write more about it. But the true test of the joke is the audience, and then even multiple audiences, different types sometimes, right? Because sometimes they'll tell a joke in one room and it won't hit, and then the next room it'll just kill. So you try it multiple times until you're like, yeah, that's not working, or yeah, that's okay, I believe in that. So even if it doesn't work one time, you're like, it's okay. And sometimes you'll just retire something. You're like, yeah, I don't, that's not my thing.
Has there been an instance where you were so obsessed with a joke, whether or not audience was responding positively, you held on to it? You were like, I'm not retiring this. I'm not giving up on this joke.
So I have one joke that's, I think I've had some good responses to it, but I think it's such a shocking thing. But I keep saying it because it's a public statement to me. So I basically was always saying that Palestinians are like Bigfoot, because even when you would get a picture of us, some people would still say we don't exist. And I was saying that for a while before everything happened with October 7th and the genocide, kicked up. So then I would say, but now, they know who we are, but I say we're more like we're a Pokemon because Israel's got to catch us all. And that definitely gets strong reactions from people because, you're basically saying that they're just picking us off one by one. And I'm not wrong, but I'm committed to it. Sometimes I'm committed to saying it, especially in rooms where I know it's somewhat hostile, because I'm like, that's the one that I'm like, look, if I'm going to say one thing, I'm going to say that, and then I'll talk about dicks. Okay. Like that's kind of my gift to myself when I'm in a space like that I'm like, excuse me, fuck you.
Absolutely. And as you were telling both these jokes, as an audience here, right? For me, I was debating in my mind because it is a terrible situation, right? It's a tragedy that has been going on for so long. Do I laugh?
There's a lot of that.
Or do I hold back? Do you think sometimes these jokes are also difficult for audience to navigate?
There's a lot of that for sure. I've been to Gaza. So I had another joke that I was doing about my personal story in Gaza, which was years ago, and I was taken there for an arranged marriage situation. And it's definitely shocking for people because my punchline is that, like, obviously I didn't want to go through an arranged marriage at 19 in Gaza. So my punchline was that, as I looked at this man and was like, wow, this might be his only shot at getting out of here, I was like, but I can't ruin my anti, arranged marriage streak. Like it was for me a very pivotal moment in my life that I'm like, am I going to marry this man from Gaza and then be living like this? But for people, it was like, is this okay? And it's one of those that I'm very kind of careful and where I say it and how I say it. But yeah, there's definitely moments that I can tell that people, especially the people that are less informed or people that have never met a Palestinian before and they want to feel empathy and they think maybe this is not the way to feel empathy. Maybe I'm not supposed to, maybe this means that I'm a bad person. So I do recognize that struggle. And that's why I'm not I don't take it in some kind of way when people react that way during those bits, because I do understand. So I'm sure that it would have been the same during the Bosnian genocide when Bosnian comics were, and I'm sure they were, right? I don't think that Bosnian comics were like, well, let's not talk about the genocide. You know what I mean? So I definitely think that exists in all those scenarios. It's just that this being the present one, it's probably much more prevalent, yeah.
And people are more aware. People are literally seeing it on their phones in real time. So what was happening in the 90s at the time of Bosnian genocide, it wasn't graphic for a lot of people. The optics did not exist, right?
It was the mass graves that drilled at home.
Right. So I think that's, again, people somehow feel like they are more connected to it than not.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku. And it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
This episode is brought to you by eBay. Buying parts for your car? You'll know that will it work feeling. But on eBay, buying parts is different. eBay's free returns means if it doesn't fit or if it isn't what you expected, you just print a label, drop it off, and get your refund fast. No haggling, no stress, and at least 30 days to return any eligible item. Millions of parts, free returns. eBay. Things people love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Lana, I want to pivot to your personal life. Now, both of us are Muslim women sitting in this space. And a lot of people in the US and the West in general have these notions of what Muslim woman identity embodies, right? I mean, there have been caricatures around us. Some people may see you and I as the outliers, which I disagree with. But when you do comedy, when the joke is more stereotypical, around how the West sees Muslim women. Do you ever think, oh, my joke may really reinforce the stereotype? How do you translate your identity without reinforcing what already exists?
So sometimes it might not be possible. In terms of like going to the emotional truths part, it's like both things can be true, meaning I can be Muslim and I can have a possibly difficult lived experience that's unique to me that I talk about, but I also am not okay with Islamophobia and just that. So like, for example, let's say now in New York, Mamdani got elected. So there was, when he was obviously running, there was like what I would call 9/11 amounts of Islamophobia going on. And so for me, I try to balance like that lived experience of mine and talking about that with the other side as well, meaning like, I do jokes about what was going on with Mamdani and how people behave Islamophobically and all that. So I try to also make it like, this is not okay, but this is, like even in America, like I have a joke where I talk about how Texas banned Sharia law. And I'm like, why? Texas law is just Sharia law wrapped in bacon. I mean, have you been to Texas? Like they don't, like there are many things that honestly they have here that are the same things that people think of as Islamophobically, but they don't perceive it here. So I try to bring that stuff in to kind of draw the parallels for people so they don't think that like, oh, you're just like making fun of Islam. Because you and I also don't present as the hijabi, showing up as a Muslim like this and being who you are and cursing and things like that like I do. That's also me telling people like, I'm not like the perfect Muslim either. Like there isn't
But what's
really...
the definition of a perfect Muslim, right? I don't think there is, there is a definition that's crafted by the West.
I agree with you. I think when I say that, I mean more like, I'm sure you get this too. Like when you're posting stuff on I'm a Muslim or you say something, I get people in my comments like, we don't want you to represent, you don't represent us. Like the people that feel themselves as more Muslim than me. So I think that's within the Muslim community that we have like, you're not a good enough Muslim. But in terms of Americans, I just think it's more like you said earlier, they should be able to see Muslims in all of so that they can also be like, we're not a monolith. So I do tell people like, look, we're not a monolith. We look like me, we look like that. My mom wears the hijab and I will defend her till the death to wear that.
Which is okay as long as it's her choice.
Exactly.
Right?
That's what we talk about.
That's what pisses me off when white feminists, and I have worked in feminism space when I was working with UN Women for this small civil society organization. And I've had aggressive feminists talk about how they can liberate women. Muslim women's oppression in the US is only spotlighted when the villain fits a script. Muslim men, Muslim countries, let's emancipate them. And we are all a function and product of our experiences, Lana, right? Growing up, for me, education was such a huge part of who I was, how my father, both my parents instilled this need for good education. Like my dad still can't wrap his head around the fact that I'm creating a media startup. He's like, where's your 9-to-5 job? Why aren't you working? You didn't get an MBA and a master's from this, great school to do this. He doesn't get what I'm doing. But that's also a Muslim woman's experience, which we hardly see. We can't just gloss over the problems that exist within the Muslim community. But at the same time, you can't a lot of times, I'm sure you can't contextualize, right? Because that's not your job.
And it's also something you're not going to be able to cover.
You won't be able to cover, right? Let me give you a historical lesson on...
In 5 minutes, 10, whatever your set time is.
In 5 minutes. Yeah. And I mean, the concept of Middle East is so fucked up.
So I think one of the things as a Muslim woman, like you just spoke to how your family is, I think as a Muslim woman, the type of family you come from really influences your experience. And that's why a lot of times in my bits, I make it clear that I grew up in a pretty strict Muslim family. that was certain, like, and that's why I said Muslims aren't a monolith, but I am what my dad not so lovingly likes to call a pioneer. Why must we be pioneers? Why can't we just be, my dad just wanted me to get married. My dad just wanted me to get married and have, that was it. That was the glass ceiling for me. As much as, and I joke about like the way education is so important for the boys in those situations, not for the women.
But that could be a function of how economically stable you are. And unfortunately for them, if they were to make a choice, I mean, there's a whole cultural context
exactly.
to it, unfortunately.
So I try to make that differentiator to also kind of let people, like not everybody, like you had a different upbringing in life. But at the same time, I honestly do this because I have nieces and I need them to have role models. And I did not have a blueprint for what I was doing. I'm sure you did not either. My nieces lost their parents and a chaotic life. So I think for them, and it's funny because my niece just told me a few days ago, she was, I just want you to know that like, I look up to you so much and you're like the only, like I watch and I just can't tell you how much I feel like I can now have somebody that I can like ask and look at. And I'm like that's why I did it, because
that's powerful.
Of course. And it's hard because I know my mom, I love her so much, but her experience was she was given a limited amount of experience. Yeah. And she had 7 children. And obviously that obviously that affects everything, I had no children. So it's being able to take that energy and create and manifest something different. And I don't want my nieces growing up like, am I like bad? Am I like, because the culture sometimes will instill, it's not really even the religion, it's the culture. I get that the religion has rules, but it's really the culture that's like, women don't, like, I understand, but like, that's coming from, like I said, the family or the people you're around. So the fact that they were around, like, I wanted to give them, they don't have to live with shame. That's kind of what it is, right? They want you to be ashamed. And shame is very powerful. I think some people need more shame, but like they can take some of ours and like, I'm on the internet. I'm like, we need to bring back shame. We really do. But like, I don't want, I grew up with a lot of shame too. And again, like it's because of the experience. And I think it's important that that's so detrimental. Catholics are the same too. It's not like, that's why, I even joke about how Catholics and Muslims, like people don't really even understand religion. So it's important to me that Muslim women, girls that are different, that are maybe more like us, and I do hear from them that they can look and say, oh, cool, I can do that too. And that's really it. I mean, like, there are so many things, like there's a lot of us that are engineers. Like I'm an engineer. I've been doing it for years. But until I started going up on stage, my niece was like, wow, like you talk, even like my boyfriend, like people were like, you talk about stuff like that. I'm like, why not? What's left? So I think it's really like we need to make sure that we let other Muslim women know that you can be whatever you want to be and don't be held back by shame, people telling you can't do something. All my life I was told, even when I got my engineering degree, my uncle would be like to my dad, what a waste of money. She's just going to engineer the kitchen. And I'm like, you're a taxi driver. Like, calm down. You know what I mean? Like, that's
no
the
shade,
ridiculousness.
No shade on taxi drivers.
For sure, no. But I'm saying it's again, like I came from a family where I was the first college educated woman. So that created that, right? And I didn't marry. And so that's why I'm saying like, it was important for my family, for the women in my family. Other families, the education, like you said, your dad was like, you're going to go to school. Like, I thought that's what my dad wanted me.
It's funny. I fell in love with this guy who's now my husband. I was obsessed with him. And my dad was like, you shouldn't marry. You shouldn't marry. Just
finish your
work.
School.
Finish your school, work.
Wow.
And it was like, he was so pissed that I wanted to settle down.
How old were you then?
I was 24. He was like, what is wrong with you? Yeah, I will say I've had some trailblazer men in my life, alongside women. My mother is a force to be reckoned with. So I get that. I mean, this conversation is so interesting and so emotional, even for me, right? You do talk about how we should see ourselves as powerful, right? What does power look like in your life right now?
Honestly, like, I've gone through a lot of loss. So to me, the initial power was getting back up. And then when you get back up, the power is, okay, I'm going to do something. Sometimes the power is just in continuing after very difficult things. Again, I think like what I said earlier, my power is really, I want women to, when they look at me, feel like stronger. You know, like I go to the gym every day, I lift heavy weights, and I'm not shy about that. And I'm very...
Why should you be?
No, but I mean, like, I want women to know, like, this is good. When you lift, like, don't let people tell you
what to do.
That because, hey, we're going to get older, like, these are important things. You know what I mean? Like, so having muscles isn't bad. You know, being strong is a good thing. So I want women to, because we have this idea that they kind of instill, especially like, you know, when you look at like people that go to gym, like, oh, you know, women get masculine and women get, and, you know, I'm 6 feet tall. So there's definitely like, you know, moments that are people like, even men are like scared of me, you know, because I'm taller than a lot of men. I'm taller than most women. And so it's, that already stands for something. So nobody's going to not see, like, I had to accept that everybody's going to see me. Nobody's going to miss me. Like, I'm going to be walking, they're going to see me. So how I show up, how I bring myself, my power, like, I'm not scared. I'm not like, this is my room. I want women to know that you can show up and always feel equal or better than the experience. Never show up and be like, am I good enough for this experience? No. Every room, I deserve to be here. Because again, I think that goes back to like how we brought up, the things that we're told, the things that you said, women don't show up here, women shouldn't be here, women shouldn't be seen there. And if you like something, if you're like intrigued by something that maybe isn't what people think women should be doing, it's discouraging. So there are people over the years that in me watching them silently gave me permission to do things. So I want when people to see me to feel like they have that permit. And again, it's not like I'm telling you, you know, you're allowed to do this. It's just a psychological thing. Usually it helps when we see somebody else and we're like, oh, that's good. Okay. Because it's perceptions.
Lana, more than how you want people, and especially women, to see you, what is that you're seeing in yourself that you see as power?
Gosh, I mean, my life story is crazy. And I've, like, the things that I've, like, when I look back, I'm like, wow. And I know it's wow when I did that because over the, you know, when I tell people, it's like, your life should be a movie. And because I've already, like, overcome all these things, there's a part of me that goes, you can't hurt me. There's some kind of power in like, I don't give a fuck. Like I lost my last fuck when I was, you know, I went through cancer. I lost my family, you know, and when you get the hits one after the other, you know, like I do boxing too. Like when you get those and you have to learn how to bob and use, that's it. And that's the power in staying up. And so like, because not everybody knows the story, but when they hear, then they look at me and they're like, oh, you look good, everything's great. But then they hear and they're like, how? And that's not going to be in the set. That's not going to show up in small parts, but that's the holistic view of it. And I think over time that appears, whether it's through threads, over time people will develop that, holistic view of you, and it's inseparable from me. So I think my power is just the fact that, again, I'm still standing all 6 feet of me, 10 toes down, and you can't push me and you can't change. I'll say what I want to say.
More power to you. I love it. I love it. Before we finish off, we'll do some rapid fire. I don't do it with all the guests, but I thought I'll do it with you. The stereotype I will never joke about again is...
No, I don't know if I've joked about a lot of stereotypes. Sometimes the Muslims bombing jokes. Sometimes we fall. It's like, yeah, we got to move on. It's hacky. It's hacky. You know what I mean? It's hacky. We just got to stop it. Yeah.
The joke that scares me that I might tell someday.
I don't even know if it scares me, but my second day in New York, I sat in shit at Central Park.
What?
I sat in shit at Central Park.
Oh, wow.
I sat down to look at Hans Christian Andersen's statue of the ugly duckling reading when I sat down, and then I got up and my friend's like, there's something on your pants.
That's
so
New
I just
York.
was like...
That's New York for you.
My friend's like, you have to make a joke about this. And I'm like, I don't want people to know I had shit on my pants. You know what I mean? But stuff that makes you, those are the things I'm afraid to joke about, yeah.
But you already did.
No,
on our
now
show.
I said it. But it's like, I don't know. You know what I mean?
The best comedy room in LA right now.
Oh, the Comedy Store for sure.
My pre-show ritual requires what?
Pre-show is in right before I go up, or usually I get up, I stretch, I do marches in place. Sometimes I jump, but just to get the blood flowing. And that's mostly, as long as I just get kind of up and get in myself, then I have it all it just aligns.
The most misunderstood thing about Palestinians is?
I want to say it's misunderstood just because of the propaganda around us, but we're so nice and they're welcoming. They will welcome you in their home. They will feed. There's just the most welcoming, generous people.
And in the end, Lana, if you were to define the United States of America, how would you do it?
I mean, I love this country, and I don't love it in the make America great way. I love it. I just love it in the way that, for somebody like me, who is a pioneer, the world is your oyster, and you can choose to be anybody. You can express yourself. You can meet all kinds of people. It's a melting pot. Again, Americans aren't a monolith. So you can find your place, and you can find your people, and you can feel less alone.
I love it. Lana, where can people find you?
You can find me on my socials at the Lana Salah, TikTok, Instagram, Threads, all of them. My website, lanasalah.com. Salah's with an H. Follow me on my socials while I get on more government lists.
Well, all of us are on those lists.
We're on all the lists except Epstein's.
Yes.
That's the one list we're not going to get on. I'm sure of it. I'm certain of it. Okay.
This was so good, Lana.
Thank you for having me.
I have so many thoughts about this conversation because as I was talking to Lana as a fellow Muslim, I felt that there were parts of me that in some ways had previously judged how she presented herself, how she commented on Muslim identity. But today, after sitting with her from across the table in person and listening to her point of view, it really made me rethink how sometimes all of us tend to become more judgmental when we hear a point of view that is not ours. And in those moments, we have to really remind ourselves that everybody's experience is different and we are all a product and a function of our lived experiences. And to erase those and create clean narratives is not what we are supposed to and should be doing. So here's to creating more inclusive spaces for everyone. This episode was written and produced by me, Saadia Khan. The editorial review is done by Shay Yu. Our sound designer and editor is Lou Raskin. Immigrantly's theme music is by Simon Hutchinson. Other music by Epidemic Sound. Come back next week when I have another important conversation for all of you. And a gentle reminder, don't forget to subscribe to our app so that you can belong on your own terms.